slow but sure coverage of the festive season which is upon us. No denying, a week today, I'll be drunk at this hour. Shat Hashem. Not so early in the morning. I'll be reading the Megillah. You'll have a special day.
Started with somebody being like really stern about Pesach.
Already?
Yeah, the family asked it, but she was like, don't in the room.
That's it. I told you, it gets pretty scary sometimes.
What time do we start drinking?
Anytime during the day, but you got to do all four mitzvot. If you drink first, the other three are going to suffer. You know what I'm saying? But let's start with that. With first of all Thursday. This year, it's this Thursday. Take a look on page 307. Right, Michal, will you read first, please?
The custom of all Jewry, since the Geonic period, is to fast on the 13th of Adar in commemoration of the fasts that Esther observed before approaching King Ahasuerus, to annul the decree against the Jewish people. Esther 4:16. In the fast that the Jews observed on the 13th of Adar,
Stop for a second. Can you give me a little timeline here from like minus 586? What happened to minus 586?
Is it the temple?
Temple gets destroyed.
First temple,
yeah. First temple gets destroyed. 70 years later, minus 516.
They came back from exile.
They came back from exile, right? 70 years of exile. And we start the Second Temple era. Second Temple era goes to what year? When does the temple get destroyed? 70, right? Year 70, there's another temple. And that gets destroyed as well. Terrible, huh? When did Purim happen? When did Hanukkah happen?
Like minus 515.
So Purim was around the beginning of the return of the exiles. Mordechai was one of the return of the exiles. So somewhere around here is Purim. Okay?
It was before the temple was rebuilt.
Well, they started to build it. It was a process. It didn't take. It was sort of the beginning of the rebuilding. It took them a couple of years. Okay? And then when did Hanukkah happen?
During the time of Second Temple.
Right. Alexander came in minus 333. That's the Hellenistic period. So Hanukkah came later. I'm just putting that in. Hanukkah was probably minus 316 or something like that. Anyways, now what happens after that? What happens? What period is? So we have basically right minus 1,000. So we have, what period is this called? This is 500 years. We call that period third period of Jewish history. Or the second period, what do we call that? This is the third period of Jewish history. And the fourth period of Jewish history.
You already have one.
I did not have one.
What is this most important period of Jewish history, ladies and gentlemen? The fourth period of Jewish history, from pretty much with the temple, the end of the Second Temple era, for the first 500 years of the millennium. What book was written then? Right? This is the period of Chazal. My sage is a blessed memory. Okay? Then the next 500 years, till about year 1000, we call it the period of the Geonim. And then we have Rishonim and Acharonim, right? So, this idea of fasting on the Feast of Esther. Well, when did they start celebrating Purim?
The year before.
Well, on Purim, which is when, and the year later, it says, next year, they set them as a holiday for all the Jews everywhere. Way back here, around year minus 500. Was there, does it say in the Megillah to fast on the fast of Esther?
It's on Pesach.
Esther fasted on the fast of Esther. She fasted on Pesach. The first indication we have of a custom to fast on the feast of Esther is in the Gaonic period, almost 1,000 years later. To us, it goes together. Purim, Tanit Esther. Of course you fast on Tanit Esther before Purim. Well, we still got another 1,000 years till 2024, but for the first 1,000 years, we don't know if there was a Tanit Esther. We'll read this again. The custom of all Jewry since the Gaonic period is to fast on the 13th of Adar, right? It's a commemoration of the fast of Esther. Now, when did Esther was in Nisan? You're right, it was not even the right month. But we're commemorating that Esther observed those fasts before approaching Achashverosh to annul the decree against the Jewish people.
Why does it say in the fast that the Jews observed on the 13th of Adar?
So this is an additional reason we fast. The name of the fast of Esther.
Such bright faces.
It's because of my wife's cinnamon buns. Rabbi Menachem. You didn't hear me. Let's get off from a cinnamon bun.
Sure.
No, not important. The name, the fast of Esther, seems to indicate the first interpretation I just gave you. Just like Esther declared a fast for the Jewish people before she went before the king. So we commemorate that part of the story by us fasting because she told everybody to fast, and that was our praying to God to save us, and then God saved us. Pretty cool. However, it did not happen before Purim. It happened 6 months earlier almost, in Nisan. So there's another reason given. Can't take you anywhere. There's another reason given for the fast on the 13th of Adar. What does the Megillah say happened on the 13th of Adar? Does anybody remember what happened on the 13th of Adar?
It was when Haman decreed to
It has to.
terminate.
And then what happened? Good. What happened? When Mordechai took power, what did he do? Did he annul that day that was chosen by lottery, by Pur? Pur means lottery. Did he cancel out that decree? Did you read the book?
Yes.
Last year. Did you read the book this year yet? It's called Esther. It's a good book. So what happened? What did Mordechai do
He sent
when he got power? What did he send messengers to say? What?
Fight back.
When?
It's a different part.
When?
Did they get the message?
Of course they got the message. They were 6 months ahead of time. What was the message?
To fight back
When?
on Purim.
No.
Before
On
13.
the 13th of Adar was the day chosen by Haman to kill all the Jews. And the message was, Jews, go fight back. The Jews have the right to defend themselves. Essentially, Mordechai was, he couldn't, well, no, Zionists, this is he didn't say go to Israel. Could have said that. Probably wanted to say that, but that would be overstepping the boundaries. He said, at least we can defend ourselves. And so basically he set up a civil war for the 13th of Adar. So as 13th of Adar was approaching, how do you think the Jews were feeling? Scared, anxious. What were they stockpiling?
Weapons?
Not Hamantashen. They were stockpiling weapons.
Can't do nothing.
Fertilizer bombs.
Anything they could get their hand on.
AKs.
Persia, I don't know. Whatever they could, sticks and stones, knives. And then they knew the 13th of Adar is coming. The morning of. What was going to happen on that day? War. It was going to be like the Wild West, every man for himself. All the enemies were told, go kill the Jews, and all the Jews said, go defend yourselves. So there's an ancient Jewish tradition, apparently going back to the time of Yehoshua, when we first fought against Amalek. It's not written in the text explicitly, but we have this tradition that says that when the Jews go out to war, you know what we do? Do you have a breakfast of champions to give you strength and energy?
Fast.
We don't. Because our strength is going to come from Hashem, not from our physical prowess. And so, the Jews were fasting on the day they went to war. So to commemorate this day of battle, that's another reason why we fast on the 13th of Adar. The name doesn't really make sense. It's not really the fast of Esther. It's really the fast of the Jewish people defending themselves. But it's not as catchy as saying the fast of Esther. Plus, there's the other reason we want to commemorate Esther's fasting 6 months earlier when she was going in front of the king to plead for this reversal of the decree. Sort of got granted. Haman was killed, and they were able to at least somewhat give an additional decree, if not annul the first one. And so there's two reasons why we fast on the 13th of Adar. And then where does this fast come in? It doesn't say it in the Megillah. About 1,000 years later, in the Gaonic period, all of a sudden we find Jewish communities all over the world are fasting on the 13th of Adar. Fascinating. Well, it's been 1,000 years, so we better keep it up, right? But you can see that, if you remember, we went through the Jewish calendar. I don't think you were here, Micha. And we said that there are really 4 fast days that were instituted by the sages. There's one biblical fast day. What's that? Yom Kippur. Very good. And what are the 4 rabbinic fast days, which are not only rabbinic, they're mentioned in the prophets. They're mentioned in the Tanakh. 4 for this. Fast days. Not that one. Oh, yeah, it is.
Tzom Gedalia.
Tzom Gedalia.
That's the bit.
No, that's not included. That's what I'm trying to point out. The 4 all have to do with the destruction. Gedalia is because that we were getting kicked out of the land. Tisha B'Av, of course.
Destruction of the
What's
temple.
there's that one that has the weird name.
Tisha
Nobody
B'Av.
knows about. What's it called?
I don't know what you're talking about. They all are the dates. The 9th of Av. The fast of Gedalia doesn't have the dates, Gimel Tishrei. But the other 2 are the dates. 3 weeks before Tisha B'Av, there's a fast they called. What's the month before Av? It's Tammuz, 17th of Tammuz.
Oh, yes.
And the one other fast is the day when the siege started. It's the 10th of the 10th.
10th of Tishrei.
10th of Tevet. So there's 4 fast days for the destruction that were instituted. And then there's Yom Kippur. But there's one other tiny little fast day which doesn't get counted. That's this one. Because it was never really instituted by the sages. It's a custom which developed throughout some time between Purim's story and the Gaonic period. It's the first time we see it mentioned in the sources, that everybody fasts on the 13th of Adar, the day before Purim. We celebrate on the day the war was over, the day the Jews rested, on the 14th of Adar. 13th was the actual day of the war. We don't really want war. We fast in commemoration on the 13th of Adar. This year, we're all going to eat on the 13th of Adar. Why? Why are we all going to eat on the 13th of Adar this year?
After the fast we eat.
On the day, on the 13th of Adar, we're going to be having 3 meals.
Shabbat.
That's right, because Purim comes out after, on Sunday. So the day before, the 14th, the 13th comes out on Shabbat. On Shabbat, we don't fast. So we prepone it. We prepone the fast of Esther. We don't do it on Friday, because Friday you got to be strong to prepare for Shabbat. So it's actually, what day of the Adar is it going to be on Thursday? The 11th. The 11th of Adar happens to be the birthday of my grandson. And this year we're fasting on that day. Poor kid. He doesn't know the difference. He's only going to be 1 year old. He won't have a birthday cake. Anyways, at 1 year old, you don't eat birthday cake, right? Although he is very bright. So this is the story of Tani Tester. Let's continue reading. Mika, come back to us. Read the second sentence. That was one long sentence.
The wicked Haman decreed that on the 13th of Adar, all Jews, young and old, children and women, be destroyed, massacred, and exterminated on a single day, and that their possessions be plundered. Because of the miracle of Purim, the hanging of Haman, and the rise of Mordechai and Esther, King Ahasuerus issued a second letter allowing the Jews to defend themselves and kill their enemies on that same day. The original decree, however, was not rescinded, because the decree that was written and signed by the king could not be annulled. Therefore, the enemies of Israel also had permission to kill the Jews. In other words, the kingdom established the 13th of Adar as the day on which those who hated the Jewish people were permitted to kill them, but the Jews were also permitted to fight for their lives and kill their enemies as well. Wow. And even though Mordechai was already second in command to the king, the Jews were still in great danger and in need of divine mercy to help them overcome and kill their enemies. Therefore, the Jews who did not fight stirred themselves to repentance and fasted that day, as is Israel's practice in times of hardship. Indeed, there is no greater penitence than penitence that is achieved through fasting, as fasting purifies a person's material side and returns his spirituality to its natural central place. In commemoration of that fast, the Jewish people fast on the 13th of Adar every year. We still have enemies who want to destroy us, and we still need to fast and repent every year. In general, the laws of Tani Esther are more lenient than those of the other minor fasts, because the other fasts were instituted by the sages, whereas Tani Esther was established by Jewish custom. In practice, though, there is almost no difference between them. The laws regarding the prayers and Torah reading at Shachrit and Mincha on Tani Esther are the same as on all those minor fasts. The only difference is that we omit Tachanun at Mincha, since it is the day before Purim.
Not this year. It's interesting. This year we're fasting Thursday. Purim is going to be Sunday or Monday. So it could be that we're going to recite Tachnun in the afternoon mincha of Ta'anit Esther. Very rare. It doesn't usually happen. But
in addition, those who follow Ashkenazic custom and usually recite Avinu Malkeinu on fast days at both Shachrit and Mincha do not do so at Mincha on Ta'anit Esther.
Maybe this year we will.
When the 13th of Adar coincides with Shabbat, we fast on the Thursday prior, and since the fast is not on the eve of Purim, we pray Mincha as on all other fast days.
Okay, good. You got Ta'anit Esther? What is the word Ta'anit mean?
Fast.
Eov Yosef, will you please write this on a flashcard with the English on the other side? Do you have a blank one?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. We already talked about giving the half shekel. It's usually done on Ta'anit Esther. Who has the better deal, the Ashkenazim or the Sephardi?
Ashkenaz.
Why?
Oh yeah.
They
It's
get-
Sparty even more, right?
They give half a shekel of value as a holy shekel, whereas Ashkenazi give half a shekel of the standard currency.
Exactly. Although the custom is to give 3 times that, still 3 half shekels.
Ta'anit fast.
It's a
Ta'anit
shekel
is-
and a
But
half.
connect the top. Your tops are not connected. It's the top left corner. It's not all the way to the end. Is it touching? It is touching. Looks like it's not touching there in the top left
It's
corner.
very thin.
I would make it thicker. Just avoid confusion, right? Because sometimes people get confused with these things. The hey, the chet. You know what I'm talking about? Wink, wink,
Okay.
nudge, nudge.
Fast.
Yes. All right. So we give it a half shekel. Now, the next mitzvah this year is actually a very important mitzvah. Even before we get back to Purim itself, the day of Purim itself. You know what a mitzvah I'm talking about? Some people say it's a biblical mitzvah.
Half shekel.
No.
The Seduah.
The what?
The Sedu.
The what?
Seduah.
What? It's not a word.
Seuda.
Seuda, that's on Purim, even before Purim. This Shabbat has a special name.
Reading the portion of Sheklim.
No, we did that already last week.
The Nisim, no, okay, that's on Pesach. I don't know.
Okay,
Wearing costumes.
please turn.
Drinking.
No. To page 301, please. 301, yes, please. Backtrack. I'm giving you things in the right order, not necessarily the book order. Okay, Gadal, you read for us, please.
The sages instituted the reading of Parshat Zachor once a year in order to fulfill the Torah commandment to remember and not forget the evil deeds of Amalek. One is viewed as having forgotten about Amalek only if a year goes by without remembering it. Therefore, we discharge our obligation by mentioning the matter once a year. We read Parshat Zachor on Shabbat before Purim in order to juxtapose remaining Amalek to the destruction of his descendant Haman.
Okay, got that? Please give this to Yav Yosef, please. Will you write down the word Zachor in Hebrew? Do you need help? This is a Zayin. This is a Chaf, Vav, and a Resh. Zachor.
According to Torah law, one must express the remembrance verbally. There is no need, however, for every individual to read Parshat Zachor from the Torah scroll. Rather, everyone fulfills the mitzvah by hearing the verses from the Torah. According to some of the greatest Rishonim, the Torah commands us to read Parshat Zachor from the Torah scroll itself. Therefore, it is proper to read it from an exceptionally beautiful Torah scroll, and the reader must try to read the passage as meticulously as possible.
Do you know what they do in this yeshiva? They read Parshat Zachor, I think, 3 or 4 times in a row.
What scroll do they use?
And maybe they use different scrolls, but they definitely use different pronunciations for each time. It's like about 4 or 5 psukim. It means remember. Thank you. Pass it back. I hope you remember this one. So Ashkenazi, Sephardic, Yemenite. Then there's the Ashkenazic pronunciation versus the Sephardic pronunciation. Hasidic pronunciation, you could do that too. People, it's part of this Purim spirit to sort of make it. But it's really, the idea is to. This is, according to most poskim, the only Torah reading that you have to hear the entire year, biblically. They switch them up. They bring different people to read it in different. Just for the few words. Yeah, it's quite festive. Okay, reading from the Torah usually is a rabbinic obligation, and the truth is, for this Parshat Zachor, this small passage which talks about destroying Amalek, it's probably you could probably just read it from a Chumash if you don't have a Sefer Torah. But there is a Chumrah that we should actually be reading it from the Torah itself, not just remembering it. So reading from the Torah itself in the most meticulous way is our custom.
It was 13 or 11 remembrance.
There's different counts. The standard is six remembrances every day. I say the passages of remember. זכור את אשר עשה לך עמלק בדרך והצילך ממצרים אשר קראך בדרך והזין ממך כל הנחשבים מאחריך ותעיף הגיע והיה בניח אשר לקחה לך כל אויביך מסביב בארץ אשר השם לקח נותן לך לרשתה תמחה את זכר עמלק מתחת השמיים לא תשכח. Say that every day after my prayers. And a list of the 6 remembrances. In the Sephardi Suda there's 10 remembrances because they add a few others. But the point is, I remember it all the time, but once a year we try to remember it from the Torah scroll, specifically by reading it in the Torah scroll. Okay? If you look on page 303, turn the page. There's going to be an announcement in Shul. Gedalia, read it.
On
303, yeah.
Mitzvah requires kavanah, focus, intent. Therefore, one must have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah of remembering Amalek's deeds. when reading or hearing Parshat Zachor. It is a good practice for the Rabbi or reader to announce this before commencing the reading.
So we're very machmir on this. We even ask the women to come and make sure that they hear Parashat Zachor from the Torah. Usually, Torah reading women are exempt, but this one too. The truth is, if you start reading on page 304, according to most poskim, women are not obligated to the mitzvah of remembering Amalek, because the mitzvah is connected to the mitzvah of annihilating us. Women are not commanded to wage war. They do not need to remember what Amalek did to us. Others claim the mitzvah to wage war applies to women as well. So they must assist the soldiers. Therefore, they too are obligated to remember, like, even though the sages established a fixed time for reading Parshat Zachor, Shabbat before Purim, it has no set time according to Torah law. In light of this, it is a mitzvah that is independent of time, and those women are obligated to perform it. So we try to make sure that all the women come to hear Parshat Zachor. In practice, women are exempt. That's really just a cute chumrah. But the chatchila, best practice, however, is for women to hear Parshat Zachor. Many women do so in practice. Sometimes they have a special reading in the afternoon or at a time when the kids are being watched by somebody else. Then we read a second time. We take out a Torah scroll and we read this small portion about Amalek. Okay? That's the mitzvah. When are we going to do that?
Every day.
No. When are we going to do that? Once a year. When?
Before
When
Purim.
is that?
Prior to Purim.
On Shabbat Zachor. When is Shabbat Zachor? This coming Shabbat. This Shabbat Zachor. There's two names. What's the parsha of the week this week? Vayikra. We're starting the third book. But it has a second name. Parasha Shabbat Vayikra and Shabbat Zachor. Because we take out two Torah scrolls. One we read Vayikra, and the second Torah scroll we read this passage about the mitzvah to annihilate Amalek.
3 times.
No, you don't have to do it 3 times. Most people do it once. Here they do it for fun. Yemenite pronunciation and that. You don't have to do it that way. Yeah, it's kosher even once, but most communities do it once. But here in yeshiva, they have fun with it.
Okay.
Right? Okay. You choose fun. You gotta know how to have fun. Read the Parsha Zachor a few times. Yeah.
Why don't we pull out a Torah scroll and read Zachor every day?
Oh, the Torah doesn't. Our tradition is that we're not supposed to do that.
We don't
Tradition
need to,
is once
especially this year.
Yeah.
Why?
Because
We're facing
Amalek.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, we don't. It's hard to forget. We're actually destroying Amalek. Exactly. Hi, Bezat Hashem. Hashem should help us. Okay, then we'll be ready for Purim. We did these 3 mitzvot. What are the 3 preparations we're going to do this week before Purim? Fast.
Read
Half
Parshat
shekel.
Zachor.
Read Parshat Zachor and
Half shekel.
give the half shekel. All that's before Purim starts.
Half shekel is separate from the 2 gifts and the 2 food items.
Correct. It's before Purim starts. On Purim, we're going to have the 4 mitzvot that I erased.
Here at the yeshiva, do they help people with that? Like, is there somewhere we can go to donate?
Yes,
Find people
absolutely.
ourselves?
Rav Dani gives out donations on the day of Purim. Okay, what does this say?
Zachor.
Zachor.
Zachor. This is a Zayin. Confusing. What does this mean?
Tanit. Tanai.
Ta'anit.
Tanit.
Ta'anit. What does that mean?
Fast.
Fast. What does this say?
No.
What is that letter?
It's pretty clear. What's the problem?
Oh, isn't it?
It's a Gimel.
It's a Gimel.
It's a Gimel.
Megillah.
Megillah. We have to read the Megillah on Purim. This is one of the 4 mems. I had it on the board. There are 4 mems. The first one, they all start with the letter mem. Megillah is one mitzvah. What's the other one? Mishteh. Mishteh means a drinking party. Lishtot. What's lishtot? To drink. So mishteh is a party at which we drink. Mishteh. Who had a mishteh in the Megillah? Achashverosh. And he invited the Jews. I hope it was kosher. What's this say? What is it? Mishloach. Mishloach manot. Sending of food portions. Matanot Levin. 1 second. Mishloach is singular. Manot is plural. So the law is you have to give 2 portions of food to one person. One mishloach. One. By the way, in modern Hebrew, you can order from the supermarket and ask them to do a mishloach. Delivery. Manot is portions. Mishloach is delivery. To deliver portions. That's mitzvah number 1. Give 2 food items to one person. Could be rich, a friend. And then matanot is plural. The evyonim, plural. Gifts to the poor. So you have to give tzedakah to 2 different poor people.
How many shekels?
It's not really defined, but it's a significant gift. I usually estimate by approximately what it would cost for a falafel.
15.
10, 15 shekels. You got to know where to shop, you know?
Oh, so are the holy beggars like really out there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Purim's the day for the beggars.
Man or the woman that you want to go.
You can give to, they say, you know, when you give a gift, something which draws you closer.
Yeah.
You don't want to draw close to your friend's wife. Might be, you know, might lead to mixed dancing, as they say. So,
Funny dancing.
so it's best that men give to men and women give to women, but that's not prohibited. You know, it's just a little bit of a chumrah there that men should give to men.
You have to give to humans.
Yes, yes. With all due respect to Fido, a rover, that's not a kosher mishlach manot. Yes, sir.
Why we never sit close to women?
I sit close to women all the time. Oh, my wife. Oh, yeah. I
Oh,
just shouldn't
yes.
close to other women because I might lead to mixed dancing, you know.
Miss?
Mixed dancing. It's just a joke.
You should carry on with kids with you everywhere.
Mixed dance? What do you mean?
There's a fight in the modern era.
Pocket partition?
There's a modern era. There's been a fight against men dancing with women. It became popular. It's popular throughout the ages. But in the modern era, a lot of religious Jews have trouble with that because they want to dance with the women. It's fun, but it's not modest. It could lead to sexual impropriety. And so the rabbis have been on a campaign against mixed dancing for 100 years now, maybe 200 years. And the fight continues till this day. At every wedding, there's a debate, hopefully at least a debate, because the young kids, they want to do mixed dancing, and the rabbis say, you're not allowed to do mixed dancing.
I think you're allowed to mix dance, you just have to leave a foot for the Holy Spirit.
It's people like that which give the rabbis no sleep at night, no mixed dancing. So it became almost a joke. Any improper mixing between the sexes, which flirting and so forth, we say, well, it's not allowed because it might lead to mixed dancing. It's just like the evil incarnate.
It used to be Jewish weddings in like.
Is it for
Well, let me just finish with it. So.
Safari?
Sephardim and Ashkenazim, everybody. Nobody's allowed to do mixed
Everybody.
dancing. Nobody's allowed to do mixed dancing. Except with your wife. Yes.
There's a video in Yad Vashem, and it shows like a Jewish wedding before the Shoah, and the men and women were dancing together.
Listen, before the Shoah, we're living 100 years of assimilation, of the Enlightenment
It
age.
was a religious wedding.
Not everybody was religious already for 100 years before the Holocaust.
It was a thing, no makes sense.
It was a thing. That's when it started, the big fight, because people started to become more and more secular and less following the Torah strictures. But really frum people never dance together, except for maybe their family, but that's something else. No, but that was a mark of the secularization of society, mixed dancing. But of course, Jews before the Holocaust, not everybody was religious. The majority were not.
Okay, so then like, but if
Just because it's old and black and white pictures doesn't mean it's kosher.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Married woman
should
can kiss men.
Only her husband and her children. Married women should not kiss other men. No. No touching between the sexes is allowed.
Even in front of a husband?
Even in front of her husband. That's true. Yeah.
Well, something.
There's cultures where that's the standard way of greeting somebody, but it's not according to halacha. If it's possible, we try to eradicate that from the culture. We're uncultured here. We're against culture. No. I'm talking about there's certain norms of society that get developed, but they're not justified by halacha. You should not be touching between the sexes.
What are one supposed to do when they kiss you?
That's tricky. You have to try to avoid it.
But how I can?
Sometimes, my aunt comes over to me, wants to give me a kiss. I remember I had that growing up, Didn't want her to kiss me anyways, but...
What do you do?
I try to avoid it.
How do you avoid it? You can push them?
Sometimes I have, even shaking hands. I don't want to shake hands with women either. So I'm careful. I always carry a book in my hands. My hands are not free, so just nod,
Wait, you're not allowed to hug your aunt?
No, you're not allowed to. Yeah.
But she's like 85.
Still not allowed to, but whatever, you do the best you can. You don't want to offend them. You have to be careful not to offend somebody. If it's possible, if it's a long-term relationship, you're going to see them every week. One day you sit down with them and say, listen, according to the rules of the Jewish practice, I can't touch other women that are not my wife. So she won't be offended.
But
Hugging sisters is a little bit question. Yeah.
I'm the old man.
You're the old man. Everybody wants to kiss you. I understand. Mm-hmm. Well, you're so lovable. You're so lovable. We all love you, Benjamin. Everyone wants to kiss you. But if possible, you should avoid it. But it's not always up to you. You do the best you can.
When I travel to India, my sister, she sees me. She comes.
Yeah,
she kisses me.
yeah. I hugged and kissed my sister as well before she died. There is room for more leniency with sisters because there's no sexual attraction, at least ideally. But officially, over the age of 9, we're not really supposed to have physical contact with women other than your wife or your children. But sister, mother's for sure allowed, yeah. Bobby's a little more problematic than mom, yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one. Grandma. You're not really. You shouldn't really be hugging her. But again, you don't want to offend anybody. So if she knows the laws, the customs of the Jews, so that she won't stop hugging and kissing you when you become 9 years old, 10 years old. Yes, that's what I'm saying. The practice is to be a little bit lenient with family members like sisters and grandmothers, but it's not really ideal. It's not really ideal.
So I completely agree, and I practice avoiding this contact as well. And it's important to note, like something I see, like with Shomer Negia, is does not the Torah say one who embarrasses another person? It's as if he draws blood. So if you're going to embarrass somebody by refusing a hug or a handshake,
right,
or make a big scene about it.
Some people allow it because of that, yeah.
Some Hasidim on airplanes and they're holding up the whole plane. And I know it's their...
That's not the same thing. That's not justified. Obviously, some rabbis disagree, but sitting next to a woman is not touching her. Even if you're going to, by accident, brush up against somebody in a bus, that's not a handshake and that's not a kiss. And so you're allowed to sit next to a woman on a bus. Some people are very machmir about this halacha, and they hold up planes because of it, and it causes a desecration of God's name. if you can ask nicely, and nobody minds, everybody should be nice to each other and be sensitive to each other, then you can usually work out an arrangement.
Yeah.
But to be violent about it for sure is not good, and even to be absolutely adamant about it, you can't force other people to keep your stringencies. It's not like nobody's forcing you to touch her or to do mixed dancing with her.
Dancing, I can avoid the fact that there is a circumstance that I feel the other day. One woman from Stockholm, we know each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
And she came straight, boom.
Right.
Say, did I did something wrong? Are you have some special thing? So I'm gonna do 20 years.
Yeah, no, you shouldn't embarrass anybody, but if someone asks you, you could say, blame it on me. My rabbi told me, well, I'm not supposed to have contact with other women. Or not my wife or mother. Okay, so if at all possible, look, it's hard in Western society. People are not careful about touching the opposite. They're really into touching.
One question.
Yeah.
When you go to date,
very prohibited. When you're dating, there's even more to worry about because you're dating, because you're attracted, because you're trying to develop a relationship. You got to make sure that relationship remains without a physical component until you are married. Dating is even more important than just someone you meet on the street. It's usually touches of endearment. It's usually touches which are close to intimacy, which is not allowed until you're married. Physical intimacy, okay? Anyway, so you got to be careful that on Purim too. You go to a Purim party, no mixed dancing, no touching, no kissing, no hugging. In yeshiva, there's no girls. If there is, they're behind the mechitza. Fine, no problem. You're not supposed to watch women dance either, by the way, because you'll get attracted or whatever, and that's not the right thing. You're not supposed to arouse yourself, except with your wife. But these are not your wives, right?
Can you listen to a woman singing on voice recording?
That's an additional area where the halacha is pretty strict. That a woman singing is considered to be sexually arousing. Some people say nowadays it's not true anymore because women are singing everybody, or everywhere there's women singing, and so really, but we keep the laws of the sages, and so I avoid women singing because it's supposed to be sexual arousing. And the truth is, nowadays, if you've ever, in my youth, if you ever watch MTV, now there's no such thing as a woman singing without her exposing half of her body. Right? Every woman singer, you can't make it in the world unless you show up on stage naked. Almost, you know what I'm saying? So that connection between women singing and women making it sexual, it's very, very understandable in today's day and age. It doesn't have to be that way. It's not always that way. And in the pristine, pure conditions, if it's only a woman's voice, you could make the argument that, okay, that's nothing sexual about a woman's voice if she's just singing a lullaby or some kind of a religious song or something like that. You can make that argument. It's hard. Some people do make a distinction between live women singing versus just a recorded sound of her voice on a recording, digital or otherwise. Somebody you know, somebody you don't know, you've never seen her before, so it's less arousing. There's room to be lenient, as I said, because nowadays the voice is not as arousing as it used to be because we're so used to it. However, on the other hand, there's reason to be more machmir nowadays because of the sexual connotation that's usually associated with women singing. And
also auto-tune.
Also what?
Auto-tune.
Huh? What?
Auto-tune. I don't know if that
What does that mean? I don't understand.
Auto-tune.
When they put auto-tune on the voice. voice.
What's
to make
auto-tune?
It makes the
It
voice
makes
so
the
much
pitch.
better. Nachon?
It's a technical thing on the computer.
And what do
to
they
make the
do?
Pitch.
And what
to
do
make
they
the pitch more accurate. So if somebody's tone deaf and they're singing, a lot of pop stars use it, like
Okay.
Justin Bieber.
So that makes it more
More, how do you say?
I don't know if it makes it more.
More
You know,
pretty.
if somebody's singing live, if I'm singing here, and it's like 6 out of 10 if I give it. But when I
I
do auto
see.
tune, it's like 10 out of 12.
Yeah, but it
I
sounds
see.
fake. It
Okay.
doesn't sound
All
like
right.
it.
I don't know. Yeah. No, so there are calculations, but the essence of the halacha is you're not supposed to do things that are going to arouse you, and obviously watching women and seeing them undressed is prohibited because of that. And seeing them dance is prohibited because of that, and listening to them sing is prohibited because of that. But as I said, we have to, how to apply it. It's a longer discussion.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
like, I can just imagine you're listening to a song on the radio, and then you're like, "Oh, I like this song. Let me watch the music video."
That's it.
Yes, sir.
That's a
big
sure.
problem.
One thing leads to the next.
What happens to me?
It might
is
lead to
that-
mixed dancing.
It might lead to mixed dancing. Is when I'm alone, I just listen to like religious music or like a man singing.
Uh-huh.
But you get in a get, you get in a taxi cab,
Sure.
and you're not in control of the radio. They're
That's
gonna put on
right.
whatever they want.
Yeah, that's right.
You can't really do anything about that.
Correct.
Is a man allowed to kiss men? To kiss in the sense?
No.
Yeah, there's no assumption of sexual arousal.
No.
No
David,
assumption.
David kissed Jonathan.
Sure.
But no,
They were-
that's
they
not
were
literally,
friends, they were
literally
brothers.
is not allowed.
I don't know. Yaakov and Esau, they may have.
No, but it is
It was a different custom. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
listen, we all know
sexual
there's homosexuality's been around since time immemorial, but it's been a small part of human society. In recent years, there's been a spike in homosexual activity in the Western civilization. It's because of the promotion, you could say, of homosexuality, to fighting for their rights turned into championing the cause, and that's causing it to be a lot more popular than it was in former societies. And so, you can make an argument that we have to fight against that. But in halacha, the assumption is it's a small minority of society that have that, inclination, and we don't have to make everybody wary of that. And so there's no strictures against, men being alone with men or anything like that. It's men with women that we worry about. That's the majority of the issue, sexual implications. They say that somebody who has those leanings has to make sure that he doesn't get attracted to, for that kind of guy to be in yeshiva with all the guys could be a problem. Complicated. Anyways, so we're ready for Purim. We know how to do the 4 mitzvot of Purim, except for the 4th one. So let's go to page 3.
51.
351, exactly.
The mitzvah to rejoice in Eid Suda.
That's it. Page 351. Are you ready?
Page 3.
Let's take a break, actually. Bring the Sidurim, please. Before we do the mitzvah to rejoice and have a mishteh. What's a mishteh?
Drinking.
A drinking party. Exactly. Mishteh is a drinking party. Thank you. Open up to page 231, please. And I want to ask you a few questions. Gedalia, what does shivya mean? Here, write it down on this card on one side, and the translation on the other side. Who can tell me what shivya means? Page 231
231.
in the Sidur. Shivya, you should all know this word. It's been 162 days. 61 days. Crazy. What is shivya? If you find it in the sentence.
Shivya. Captivity.
Captivity, yes. Captivity. And what Micha, write down the word Sarah in script. I'll write it on the board for you.
Sarah means a plane.
This is a tzadi.
Sarah means plane.
This is no. And this is a hey. Sarah. It's in the.
Distress.
Distress. Good. Shivya. Captivity. Good.
And Sarah.
Sarah, you're in distress. What happened? You didn't sleep at night because you were busy. Sarah. Good. The other side, right? Add translation. Distress. Achenu Beit Yisrael. Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael. Anetuni Mitzara. Tzara uveshivya. Omdim ben bayam. Ben bayam. Ahenu Kol Beit Yisrael. Ahenu Kol Beit Yisrael. Anetuni b'tzara. Tzara uveshivya. Omdim ben bayam. Ben bayam. Hamakom Menachem, Menachem, Yotzim Mitzara, Leivra, O Yafel Leora, Mishiemo, Legeola Hashta, Vagala Ubizman Kari. Hamakom Menachem, Yotzim Mitzara, Leivra, O Yafel Leora, Mishiemo, Legeola Hashta, Vagala Ubizman Kari. Of Yosef. Open up that second line. Read for me the words at the beginning of the second line. What's the first word? Of the second line of the song. The first word of the line is Ba Yabasha. What does that mean?
Land.
Land, right? Whether on sea or on land. Of Yosef. Read the next word. And the next word? And the next word? Ah, thank you. Thank you. Micha, please read for me the second line. Yabasha. Sorry, you're in the middle of your tea. I'm sorry.
No.
It's okay.
The second line?
Yeah.
B'yabasha hamakom yirachem alehem.
Good. Yirachem aleihem. The hay is not a chet. Got it? Everybody please turn to page 193.
193.
You see the first paragraph there starts with, this is we add on the important day. And every time we say benching or every time we say the Amidah, we add in this section. Al hanisim ve'al ha'purkan ve'al ha'gvurot ve'al ha'tshuvat ve'al ha'milchamot she'asita l'avotenu bayamim ha'hem b'zman hazeh. What are the words? Bayamim?
Thank you.
Bayamim ha'hem. Ha-hem. No chet. There's no chet in there. It's haze. Ha-hem. Got it? Bayamim ha-hem. Ha-hem. Okay, again. Ala nisireya ha'purkan ve'ala gvurot ve'ala tshuot ועל המלחמות שעשית לאבותינו בימים הם בזמן הזה. Okay, you got that? Got that song? What is Nisim? What does Nisim mean?
Kings.
No. What does Nisim mean?
Miracles.
Miracles. What is Purkab? It's Aramaic.
Purka.
You have it right there.
Pork.
You have it there. Yeah, I have an English Hebrew text.
Ah,
Pork
the
mean?
redemption.
I actually don't know how to read.
The redemption.
Gvurot, apparently.
Redemption.
Gvurot,
Mighty.
might. Gvura,
Strength.
Teshuot. What's Teshuot?
Repentance.
Teshuot is salvations.
Really?
Salvations. Yeshua, salvation.
I thought the
Milchamot,
Wars.
Wars.
Teshuvah is repentance. This is Teshuah with an ayin. Milchamot are wars
Wars.
that you performed for our ancestor in those days at this time. Okay, you know the continuation of the song, don't you? Magburat ve'aratshut hayamilchamot sita lavoteinu bayavim hahem bazman hazeh. Yifeh. Now, Eov Yosef, we read the English for us. Bimei Mordechai, in the days of Mordechai.
In the days of Mordechai and Esther in Shushan, the capital, the wicked Haman rose up against them and sought to destroy, slay, and exterminate all the Jews, young and old, children and women, on one day, the 13th day of the 12th month, which is month of our God, and to plunder the possessions. Then you, in your great compassion, thwarted his counsel, frustrated his plans, and caused his scheme to recoil on his own head, so that they hanged him and his sons on the gallows.
Whew! Hooray! Mazal tov. Okay. So this is the brief statement of the Purim story in the Amidah. What section of the Amidah? What bracha is this? Can you anybody tell me?
Modim and Achnulah.
Excellent. It starts Modim on the previous page 190. You see that? Starts with Modim. Where does it end? Where does this bracha end? At the bottom of 193. Baruch atah Hashem, atov shimcha v'chanai ladot, whose name is the good and to whom thanks are due. It's the blessing of thanks. So we're thanking him for the miracles of Purim. Yafeh. Yafeh. Now, I'm going to ask you to take out a piece of paper and pen. Here's some paper. Everybody have a pen? And I'm going to teach you some extra words. You know the tune already. But this is, once we know that the fight against Haman is the fight against Amalek. Amalek Tistalek. Get out of here. Tistalek.
Tistalek.
Modern Hebrew. Get out of here. Amalek Tistalek. Amalek Tistalek. Min Hamoach Vehaleh. From your mind and your heart. we're not only talking about Amalek, the ancient nation that doesn't exist anymore. It's been obliterated. Isn't that smart of us, the Jewish tradition? We actually speak about a metaphoric Amalek, which represents evil, represents doubt, represents all sorts of thoughts which bring us down. And so we're saying to them, we want Amalek, get out of here. From where? In Hamoach. Our brains, our minds, and our hearts.
And out of our
Mishe, 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 Nichnas Adav. Amalek tistalek, Amalek tistalek, Min hamoach lehalek. Mishe nichnas Adav, Margin besimcha. Mishe nichnas. That's the high part. There's other words as well for the first part too. Margin besimcha. V'zakeinu lekabel v'zakeinu lekabel kedushat Purim. The emet.
You actually.
Kedusha is holiness. Of the holiness of Purim, we should merit to receive the holiness of Purim in our hearts. We don't just want to have a day of getting wasted, of partying for no good reason. There's Kedusha of Purim. What word does Purim remind you of?
Drinking.
The word Purim sounds similar to another holiday in the Jewish calendar.
Yom Kippur.
Kippurim. That's right. They're very similar. Yom Kippurim is the holiest day of the year. Some people say it's actually the second holiest.
The first is
Purim is the holiest. Why? Yom Kippurim, it's just like Purim. Ki is like. So Purim is like. Kippurim is like Kippurim. It's like Purim. But that's a nice drasha. But the idea is there's holiness in this day of joy. While we eat and drink, you don't have to be fasting. Yes.
Do we go by that? Is that like a metaphorical statement? Because it feels kind of wrong to me.
It's a metaphor, but what's wrong about it?
That Yom Kippur is in the Torah.
Of course, you're absolutely right. So that's why I agree with you. It's the simple holiness of the biblical day of Yom Kippur cannot be rivaled by a rabbinic day. But the rabbis many times are channeling a true feature of the holiness of the day. In other words, we have a little bit of holiness, and the holiness that we've achieved, the high level of holiness, Kedusha, on Yom Kippur, actually can be expressed on a day when we eat and drink as well. That's what they're trying to teach us. But obviously, the biblical command remains Yom Kippur.
Well, I think that there is some logic, like in the Midrash that talks about it along about it. We'll study Megillah Esther and not like the Nevi'im. Well, I had this great show with Yosef Packer, and he explained we were learning about the Kabbalah of Purim and how the Kedusha, the holiness, comes from such a high place, like it comes from Abba and Ima.
Okay.
The tree of life and the Kabbalistic. So it comes from like, it's closer to the Holy Ancient One in the way that it supersedes judgment, that the judgment had been declared against the Jews, and that there was no way in God's justice that we could be redeemed. It was only from a force above that. It's like a parent when you tell your child so many times, don't do this, and they keep breaking the laws.
Right.
It's like they're going against you. Eventually you have to punish them. But then the love of a parent is that compassion to go
Nice.
beyond your justice.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. On a very, very deep level, the sentiment that Purim expresses, the holiness of the Jewish people, the chosenness of the Jewish people. So the rabbis are tapping into that. But on an explicit level, Amalek has to be destroyed. That's on the deeper level, Amalek is also an agent of God. So Amalek can convert and become Jewish.
Well, that's another way of destroying Amalek.
Another way of destroying it, correct? Yes.
Well, we know that the Shekinah is the divine presence.
Yes.
But is it like the Shekinah and HaKadosh Baruch Hu one together? Or is it
Shekinah is a feminine aspect. Right? The word Shekinah is usually referred to as the feminine aspect, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the masculine element. Of course, God is neither male nor female, but these archetypes, once you guys seem to be Kabbalists, it's interesting. You've been doing a lot of learning. Don't know how to say the 4 mitzvot of Purim, but you guys know some Kabbalah. It's very surprising to me, but it's okay. You always learn in different ways. But whatever comes first or second, the point is I'm happy to discuss the ideas. So when the Kabbalah describes God as being masculine and feminine, nobody claims he's actually a male or a female. But these are archetypes of different ways that God acts in the world. Sometimes he acts in a way which we would call masculine, if you saw, this type of action, or in a way which is feminine. If you saw the actions, you would associate them with feminine characteristics. And that's the Kadosh Baruch Hu and Shekhinah. But ultimately the goal is for us to recognize that there's only one true God. Both of these ways that God works in the world are different ways of him expressing himself in the world, showing himself to us. Does that answer your question? I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Shekinah is like associated with head or the crown, that we're lifting up the Shekinah to be God's crown, right?
Okay. Doesn't help me so much. It's just using more metaphors.
Okay.
What's a crown? But you're not wrong, but it's just.
Okay, then why do we say Lashem Yichud? What are we unifying? Hashem is already Echad, the perfect.
Exactly.
But why do we make unification?
So this is a very, very basic point in Judaism. It really, we say it in Shema every day. Hashem is one, right? But the world that Hashem created, if you look at Bereshit, it's full of divisions. Light and dark, heavens from the earth, seas from the land. It's full of separations. So this world, in many ways, is the opposite of the unity of Hashem. And our goal is to reveal that Hashem is the one unity, which is the source of all these divisions. So that's the basic beginning of an explanation of what the Kabbalists say before doing any mitzvah. That while doing this mitzvah, we want to unify the Godhead. Right? There's a concept that in the mystical tradition, our actions don't only make an effect upon us and upon our psyche, but they make an effect on the upper worlds. In the upper worlds, every mitzvah we do, because we're listening to God's word, we are affecting a unification of that. This world essentially is being used to reveal God's hiddenness. God hid from the world, so like the world is something separate, divided from Him. When we do a mitzvah and follow His will, so we're revealing the unity that essentially there's godliness in this world too. God created the world, we're doing its purpose that He created it for. So that's unifying the Godhead itself. So that's the basic idea of a yichud.
So the Shekinah is also Kadosh Baruch Hu?
Yes. Well, no. Shekinah is also God. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a specific term for the masculine side.
Okay.
And the Shekinah is a specific term for the feminine side. So we want to unite them. It's a marriage. Every time you do a mitzvah, every time you do something godly in this world, you're effecting a marriage between these separate parts of godliness. Godliness that's distant from the world and godliness within the world. And so that's like a marriage between Kadosh Baruch Hu, the groom, and the Shekhinah, which is the bride.
So if it's like too complicated for me, just don't learn this kind of stuff. No.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's not for.
Hashem wouldn't like blame me. Oh, you didn't learn this because no.
Not at this time. Not at this time. No, there's room. There's room. There's room. Rav Kook was very lenient about that. Rav Kook said that in today's day and age, everybody should be learning Kabbalah, but still doesn't mean that it's if I try, I believe everybody should know some chemistry. Okay, but I can't. It's amazing, but until you know a little bit of biology, until you know a little bit of the basics of math and the concepts of equations and geometry, you can't really learn the physics and the chemistry that comes afterwards. So you have to build towards it. I'm not saying it's not good to learn. Everything at the right time. Not necessarily the first thing you should start with to understand Judaism.
26 now, I think it's too late.
Oh, never too late. Rabbi Kiva was 40 when he started learning Torah at all. You're 15 years ahead of him.
Rabbi,
yes.
Was the Shekinah united with HaKadosh Baruch Hu prior to creation?
Of course.
Yeah.
Before creation, God was one.
And he is one now.
And he still is one.
There was in some.
It's not revealed, yeah.
So Shekinah is also
okay, you're
creation?
learning all sorts of stuff. Sorry?
Shekinah is also creation? No.
It's just words right now. Until you know what you're talking about, it's just throwing out words like Micha's doing. I'm sure he's a very high-level Kabbalist, but the fact that you learn a few words about Abba and Ima and the Ancient One, you're not going to impress me, okay? You're not going to impress me. To be to have an understanding of the mystical secrets of Judaism, you have to study. You have to, on the surface, you can understand words and know what they are, but that doesn't mean you understand Kabbalah. But, all in good time. I never close books from anybody. I just want to, this is a little bit confusing.
Why don't we have a Zohar?
One can.
Do we have like a Kabbalist teacher in the Machon Meir who teaches basic things?
There are a lot of books about
Not the
Kabbalah.
books, you need a teacher.
A teacher. So the closest we have is in the classes I give here and there. But Rav Micha teaches Chassidut sometimes. Now he's teaching Orata Tshuva, which is Rav Kook, which is also based on Kabbalah. But yeah, like before Gedalia gets a rash, he grew up in a Hasidic world. So of course you're not allowed to do Kabbalah. You're supposed to learn Chassidut. Chassidut is a translation of the Kabbalah for us. And they don't want you to be learning Kabbalah directly. They want you to learn it through the filter of Chassidut, which is pretty much how to apply Kabbalah to your worldview, to your religious life. And it's not just about the academic discussion of these spiritual worlds.
Right.
But I'm not against it. Sorry.
Are there seferim we could read on our own?
Many.
I don't know, say you have a student and you're talking one-on-one, you can say, this book you're not ready for.
Right, sure.
And
depends on each student, it's different. But there are
like-
many books about Kabbalah which are wonderful books. But oftentimes I refer you to books and I say there's good books, you should read them. Remember? Which book have I said about it's a good book, you should read it?
Mishnah?
The Torah,
The Torah.
the Nevi'im, the Ketuvim, the Tanakh, the Mishnah. Those are all good books. You should read them. So there's books on Kabbalah too, and you should read them too. But maybe you should prioritize getting your basics down before you can start learning, rocket science. You should take physics 101 before you do.
How many times do you have to read the Torah?
Many.
Of course, in
It's
your life,
not.
but
The point is not about reading it. The point is trying to
To
understand
understand
it.
it.
Yes.
But-
Study it. Yes. But I'm not saying it's
like
one
3
or the
times
other.
and
It's
then-
not. No, it's
then
not.
you can go on to...
You should be a serious student of the revealed parts of Torah and the hidden parts of Torah. That the literal meaning of the laws and the the metaphorical meaning of the laws, or the spiritual underpinnings of God's word. You have to study it all. But people go straight for this
Meat.
no, they go straight for the icing with not having any meat. You get sick if you eat only the icing, right?
Original icing meat looks like kosher.
It depends if the icing is kapar, but
I prefer the metaphor of wine.
wine. Okay.
It's
Right,
like
if
you
you
don't
drink too
give
much
a baby
wine.
wine. Okay,
Right.
The baby's gonna get way
That's
too
right.
drunk.
You put it in the jar. It's okay.
So there's a
You
book.
can have a little one.
If
It's
you
a
want, you can read Inner Space by Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan. It's a good book.
And it's,
Or the olive base. It's pretty good.
The Aleph Base book? What's
For
that?
that one, Chabad guy. But
I don't know
like,
about that.
it reveals a lot of Kabbalistic.
I don't know that book. But really, you should, learn what we're learning here, and all in good time, and in parallel even. I'm not saying not parallel, but you have to. There's all sorts of people that go to the extreme. There are people that even created institutions where they teach Kabbalah to non-Jews. And they say, all that Judaism stuff's not important. Only the Kabbalah is important. Obviously, that's it's going to lead you in the wrong direction, yes?
So I read this interesting book while I was reading it by Gershom Shalom.
Yeah.
And it's a biography of Sapti Tzvi. In
Yeah.
order to explain how he completely misunderstood and misrepresented Kabbalah, it asked to disseminate and kind of explain certain basic Kabbalistic concepts. I
Okay.
thought it was a very interesting and
Great.
informative book.
Okay. No, I learned a lot about Kabbalah from other books that mention it in order to explain a different point. It's not like you're going to grow a tail or anything if you learn about some of the basic concepts of Kabbalah. I think you should know some of the basic concepts of Kabbalah, but shouldn't be their area of study. So that's why we really don't have a class directly teaching Kabbalah. I would do it. I'd be happy to do it. But I think Rav Lispa would fire me in half a second
Really?
if I suggested that. It's not really been the approach of Rav Kook, Rav Tzvi Yehuda HaKohen Kook, who's sort of the mentor of Rav Bigon. He, as opposed to his father, Rav Kook, the father, was very into teaching Kabbalah. Nowadays, he said it's the only way, we can really explain the deepest parts of Judaism. We need to, because of the Enlightenment and the secularization of society and all the philosophical movements of the 20th century, we need the insights of the Kabbalah to counter all that. So Rav Kook was all into teaching Kabbalah. But his son, when he basically revived the yeshiva after who was very small for about 20, 30 years after Rav Kook's death, Merkaz Rav, it was a very small yeshiva since Rav Kook died in 1935 until Rav Tzvi Yehuda became the Rosh Yeshiva. Like for the first 10 years after his father died, Rav Tzvi Yehuda pretty much, he didn't teach. He sat and worked on publishing his father's works, which we're very thankful that he did that. But it was only until about 20 years later when he became an active Rosh Yeshiva, and then the yeshiva got bigger at a later date and became popular and became a founder of a movement. And Rav Tzvi Yehuda, who taught Rabbi Gun and many other people of his generation, he was against the open study of Kabbalah. Of course, in private, at a high level, all the rabbis studied Kabbalah, and Yehuda himself was a massive, very well-versed Kabbalist, like his father was. But he did a left turn, right turn, whatever you want to call it, and from then on, the Rav Kook yeshivas don't really teach Kabbalah explicitly. They teach Rav Kook's writings. Now, Rav Kook's writings are all based on Kabbalah. And so you can get some Kabbalah through Rav Kook, just like the Hasidim. You'll get some Kabbalah through teaching the Hasidic writings. So in that way, there's a parallel. But there is a movement of coming back to the original sources, like the father, Rav Kook, felt was appropriate. But I don't think it's going to fly in at least not for the English department. We have, mostly beginners here. And that makes sense. It's not the first thing you teach a beginner, is the secrets of Kabbalah, you know?
I was here 3 years ago and studying. Then I said, now I go and fly. I went to study Kabbalah 3 years. But I'm here today happy. And my mouth,
It wasn't the right thing for you. That's for sure.
So you're not going to teach us a time under the table.
Whatever I teach you is on the table. I'm happy to teach you basic concepts. We're already discussing them already. He asked me a question. I answered.
don't joke with the lion. He
Don't
can
joke
very with the lion.
Lion.
Lion
Oh, yeah.
is very nice, but he can beat.
Oh.
So
Okay.
you never see the lion, so don't try.
Okay. Everybody turn to Havdalah, please. Havdalah is on page 700 and 70. Did you all say Kiddush Levanah last night?
782. No, we couldn't see the moon.
Couldn't see the moon. Oh, what a shame. I saw it.
782.
782, exactly.
Here, 83, 82.
So on line 5. Line 5 from the top, middle of the page. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה, אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. The fifth line from the top of the page, 783. In the middle of the line, there's 2 dots. And then the words, it's a quote from Esther, chapter 8. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה, אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. So what does that mean? Hayta, there was for the Jews, like Hayta, for the Jews there was. Ora, what's ora? Light. Wait, did we use the word ora in Achenu Kol Beit Yisrael? Hamakom Yirachem Aleihem V'yotzihem Mitzara Lirvacha Me'afela Le Ora. Ora, same word, light. The Jews had light. V'simcha, what is simcha?
Joy.
And what's sason? It's also joy. So what's the difference between simcha and sason? It's your homework for tomorrow. Find, for me, ask different rabbis. What's the difference between simcha and sason?
Simcha is joy.
Thank you.
Sason,
Sason means
gladness.
happiness.
What's the difference in happiness and joy?
Happiness and joy. Happiness lasts a short time, joy.
You think? Or the opposite? I don't know. You're making it up. It's
like
very interesting. Anyways, they had light, happiness, and joy. What does he translate here? Gladness and joy. And yikar. What's yikar?
Honor.
Honor.
That's kavod in the phone.
Similar word is kavod. That's right. There's a difference between kavod and yikar. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. Next words. כן תהיה לנו אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. Oh yeah. כן, כן, כן תהיה, כן תהיה לנו אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. כן, כן, כן תהיה, כן תהיה לנו אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. כן, כן, כן תהיה, כן תהיה לנו אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר. So the sages, last thing I want to tell you for today, the sages have a very special interpretation of light, joy, gladness, and honor. You know what it refers to?
The 4 mitzvah.
Close, but no cigar. 4 mitzvot, not those of Purim. They say Ora, that means Torah. The Torah, study of Torah. Simcha is mitzvot in general, I think. Sason is tzitzit, and yikar, the sort of ornament that we wear for honor, is tefillin. And so, yes, we wear tefillin on Purim. And we think of this midrash of Chazal that Sason v'yikar is tzitzit and tefillin. Tomorrow, only tomorrow will we get to the mitzvah to rejoice and have a drinking party. Ezrat Hashem, we will discuss that by page 351 tomorrow.
How high can it get?
How